We'll be live. It's going live now. Yeah, you just carry on. It's going to go live now. So
yeah, it says it's streaming live now. Okay, it's 1 minute to 7. Welcome everybody. We are standing in front of the gates at Crossbones. And using the power of our imagination, we allow ourselves to see those gates and see the ribbons fluttering in the wind. And as we quieten ourselves down, we listen for the voice of the goose who invites us over here. Spirits of the dead, spirits of the living, kindred, welcome. Oh, there's John. Hi, John. Welcome to the 196th consecutive monthly Crossbones Vigil to honour the outcast, both dead and alive. We have met for nearly 17 years, both outside the gates and latterly on the virtual, in the virtual. And tonight is the very first night that we are also joining in with a Zoom. This is to make able to come together even more. I can see lots of you up the top. There's somebody else looking to come in now. And it means that people who would like to offer an offering when we come to the offering stage, so that those people can also come on and make their offering, and we can all see and hear them. I'm finding it so exciting. So when we come and stand at the gates, what happens usually is the speaker gives a short history of Crossbones. I'm going to give a very, very short history of Crossbones this evening. If you want to know more, please feel free to go to our Facebook page, crossbones.org, and you'll find out lots about us. Now, it's not only that we are live Zooming and live streaming and all the different names, I can't remember the names, but tonight is also really special because it's the autumn equinox. We're standing at the time when we start to turn, we're evenly balanced between dark and light, but we start to turn our face to the dark, our faces to the winter. And just to prove how on the button Crossbones is, this is the only vigil in the year where we start in the light and we end in the darkness. So a very short history of Crossbones. Crossbones' story has been with us for 1,000 years. It's a post-medieval, I nearly said menopausal. It's a post-medieval graveyard, unconsecrated. And back in those days in the 1100s, the area of Southwark that surrounds Crossbones was owned by the bishops of Winchester. They were the landlords. And the rules that they made there, the ordinances, meant that the women who prostituted themselves, the women were called Winchester geese. A goose is an old-fashioned euphemism for a prostitute, and because the women worked in the liberty of Winchester, they were called Winchester geese. So these women were licensed by the church to prostitute themselves, but when they died, they weren't allowed a Christian burial. The last 200 years of the graveyard's life, it was given to the local parish church, St Saviour's and St Mary Overy, which is now, of course, Southwark Cathedral. And they used the burial ground to bury their own local people. And the people who were living in that area at that time were the poorest of the poor. It was a disease-ridden slum. The graveyard was used so much that towards the end of its life, people were being buried under only 6 inches of soil. This wasn't a place of decency and dignity. This was a place where it feels more like these people were thrown away. So the burial ground was closed down, being overcharged with dead. And it was completely forgotten about by officialdom. The local history tells us that Crossbones Graveyard is that single women's burial ground of so many years ago. But it was forgotten completely by authority until in the 1990s, Transport for London, who by now owned the land, started to build their electricity substation, and they dug into a solid wall of bone. All the bones all jumbled together because people had been crammed in so much for so long. It looked nothing like, to me, if it had been a war, this would have been where they'd thrown the enemy's bodies. These people were all outcast, women, children, men. So, Transport for London accidentally woke up the graveyard, accidentally woke up the spirit of the place, the goose. And in 1996, on November the 23rd, John Constable was walking past a set of factory-like gates, locked red iron gates, and into his head fell a poem purported to be given him by a voice that said she was the goose. She was the Winchester goose. And for the next 2 years, she downloaded poems into John and he wrote them down. And we can see in that poetry that this voice is an agent of transformation, because not only is the goose a medieval prostitute, the lowest, she transforms herself into the highest, the mother of us all. Now, because of the inspiration that John had received with all that poetry, all that energy, he fought with other people, started the fight to keep the developers off the land and to turn the graveyard into a garden of remembrance for the outcast dead, and also to run rituals, to run the Halloween of Crossbones, whereby the goose's work, the teachings were repeated, and then a procession went to Crossbones where the ribbons started being hung with the people who are buried there, with their names written on them. And from that developed the vigils, and almost 17 years later, here we are. So, thank you. Okay. So we're getting ready to step into the vigil. We work very simply. This is not a religious service. We invite and welcome all religions and none. Even the blind material mind walks its own hallowed path at liberty. We welcome everybody. We are all here together. I'm not more important than you just because I'm the one that's speaking. You're the people that are important because you are the people that are coming together. My voice rises and it disappears again into the silence as it falls away. And this is how we react to all the noises we hear around us all the time as we're going through our vigil. So we have 5 very lovely, very simple rituals that we enact here. And the first one is we light the Open Pathways candle. And when we light the Open Pathways candle, what we wish for is for all the beings in all the worlds to be at liberty to achieve their most intimate aspirations. We use the candle as a physical manifestation of that wish. But what we all do, Marie and Jules, Jackie, all of us here, to whatever way we understand it, we light that Open Pathways candle in our hearts. We light it in our hearts in whatever way we understand it, as it's the light of love or the light of consciousness. However we understand that, we hold that, looking through the gates of Crossbones into the garden, and we feel the silence coming through, which we start to breathe in. And we allow ourselves to just open our time out into eternity. Each one of us is one small light in the shining emptiness. And we stand for 1 minute, opening the pathways. I will ring the bell to begin, and I'll ring a bell to end. you want to take them? So we've blended ourselves into the silence, and we step deeper into the vigil in this next part of the vigil, which we call the act of binding and loosing, to further give ourselves away. The world tells us that we must make and have and collect and be more and more and more, fill ourselves up, keep filling ourselves up. But what we hold to here at Crossbones is a full up jug can't hold anything else. So we practice emptying ourselves. In our first ritual, we empty ourselves, so we're just light. In this second vigil, we empty ourselves even further in our act of binding and loosing. And what we do when we're at Crossbones is we hang our ribbons on the gates. I can see, Corinne, you've got your own ribbon. Other people are holding up their own ribbons. Claire's got one, Kerry's got one. How lovely. And if you haven't got a ribbon, don't worry about that, because we're actually not standing at the gates. We are using the power of our very fertile imaginations. So if you haven't got a ribbon, you hold an invisible ribbon. You have your virtual ribbon. And find somewhere to hang your ribbon, to tie your ribbon on. Even if it's invisible, picture yourself tying it on so that you can give yourself away. We give whatever we're overflowing with. If we're overflowing with love, give that. If we're overflowing with pain and sorrow, give that. Whatever you want to give to the gates, offer to the gates, offer it with your best love, as if you were giving it to the beloved, which of course we are. And let yourself empty of that as we bind it onto the gates, so we loose ourselves and we make ourselves emptier for the new, for the transformation to start working for us. And we hang the ribbons on the gates, accompanied by what we call the echo prayer. Now, this is not exactly a prayer, this is more like a statement of intent of what we're actually doing. But it is an echo. So as we are hanging our ribbons somewhere onto my altar, and we are repeating the prayer, which we will repeat 5 times, you'll be able to hear us echoing on each other. And do please, even though we won't be able to hear you, echo back for yourself, so that we are all in the virtual sending these lovely sounds out into eternity. So we're going to start now, and we're going to repeat it 5 times. Here lay your hearts,
Here lay your hearts,
your flowers, your book of hours, your fingers, your thumbs, your miss you mums. Here hang your hopes, your dreams, might have been, your locks, your keys, your mysteries. Here lay your hearts, your flowers, your book of hours, your fingers, your thumbs, your miss you mums. Here hang your hopes, your dreams, your might have beens, your locks, your keys, your mysteries. Here lay your hearts,
Here lay your
flowers,
your
your
flowers,
hours,
your book of hours,
your fingers,
your
your
fingers,
thumbs.
your thumb,
We'll miss you, mums.
your miss.
Here hang your hopes,
Here hang your
your
hopes,
dreams, your might have been,
your might have been,
your locks,
your
your
locks,
keys,
your keys,
your mysteries.
your mysteries.
Here lay your heart,
Here lay
your
your
flowers,
the
your book of
flowers,
hours,
your
your fingers, your
your
thumbs,
thumbs,
you'll miss you,
your
mum.
mums.
Here hang your hopes,
Here hang your
your
hopes,
dreams, your might have
your
been,
might have been,
your locks,
your locks,
your keys,
your mysteries.
Was that Irene joining in with us? That was so lovely. I could hear her joining in. Oh, it was almost like being at the Bones themselves. Thank you so much. Thank you, Irene. Now we come to, can't remember now, the third, the fourth ritual in our vigil, whereby we invite people to offer their offerings. Now, like Jackie's already said, this is definitely not an open mic. But if you are inspired to offer a poem, to offer some words, to offer a song, anything that by your lights you think is relating to Crossbones, then please do offer on the chat thing so that we can put you in. There's about 5 or 6 of us already who are going to offer something. But if you'd like to offer something, please do tell us and we can put you into this offering section. Now, what is traditional in the offerings is we always start with a goose work, with a work of John Crow's, from John Crow's pen, from the Southwark Mysteries. So tonight, Nicholas is going to start, and I'll hand, oh, before you start, sorry, he nearly moved. This is not church. We like to applaud. So even if you applaud silently or show us you're applauding or any way that you express yourself, this is another way that we can be all part of each other's, all part of the same vigil.
I was born a goose of Southwark by the grace of Mary Overy, whose bishop gives me license to sin within the liberty. In bankside stews and taverns, you can hear me honk right daintily as I unlock the hidden door, reveal the secret history. I will dump you in the river and then reveal my mystery.
Now I'm just going to look at the chat to see who is going to, who's putting the road barriers out. Okay. 196, yes, I think we've already said that. Okay, so that was Nick. Now, Jackie, can I ask you, are you ready to give us an offering now? In that case, I'm passing you over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I have had a request to read a poem from this book, Circle of Grace by Jan Richardson. So I'm going to read that. And this is called When We Breathe Together. This is the blessing we cannot speak by ourselves. This is the blessing we cannot summon by our own devices, cannot shape to our own purposes, cannot bend to our own will. This is the blessing that comes when we leave behind our aloneness, when we gather together, when we turn toward one another This is the blessing that blazes among us when we speak the words strange to our ears, when we finally listen into the chaos, when we breathe together at last.
Thank you, Jackie. That was really lovely. That feels so much like it expresses what we do here at Crossbones. Looks like Mark's got his hand up. Is that Mark with a hand up, or is he just waving?
He has got his hand up. I'm just going to ask him what he wants, so you can...
Should we just say Mark is next?
I don't know if he can make his audio work. Maybe that is what is happening then.
And asked, should we go on and ask Mark to come in a minute? Here.
I'm just trying to talk to Mark in the chat, so...
Okay, well, if Jackie carries on talking to Mark, John Crow, are you there?
Oh, this is, yeah.
Oh, it's Mark.
Oops.
Wait, can you see me?
No, we can hear you.
What about now? Oh, it's a little bit dark.
You're very...
No.
Yes, there you are.
Hello, folks. Sorry, as I said, technology is a bit of a troublesome one for me, but it's so lovely. I caught you just for the echo poem, and it's so lovely to be with you guys. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. Because it's strange. I can't hear you, but I guess I'll just perform a poem I heard recently that's quite relevant to the work at Crossbones I found, to do with pleasure, pain, and love. So always relevant themes. It's by E.E. Cummings. Hate blows a bubble of despair into hugeness, earth system, universe, and bam, fear buries tomorrow under woe, and upsprings yesterday, most green and young. Pleasure and pain are both surfaces, one itself showing, one itself hiding, itself showing one. Life's only true value, neither is. Love makes the little thickness of the coin. Here comes a man would have from Madam Death, nevertheless now, and without winter spring. She'll spin his spirit her own fingers with, and give him nothing if he should not sing. How much more than enough for both of us, darling? And if I sing, you are my voice. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. It's lovely.
Thank you, Mark. Now, are we on? Are we talking? Okay. John Constable, John Crow, are you there? Would you like to put your microphone on and give us your offering, John Crow?
Okay, can you hear me now? Everybody here? Hello, everyone. Yeah, lovely to come in with you all. Jen, Nicholas, Jackie, Mark, everyone. Yeah, as you know, I did 23 years. I served the goose at Crossbones, and I still serve the goose, but now I'm walking around the islands and delighted that the Magical Collective is taking the goose teachings, goose and crow teachings forward into new lives and new worlds. So a very short poem from me, a poem of gratitude. Thank you for everything. Thanks for the song I was given to sing. Thank you for healing the crow's broken wing. Thank you for waking me up. Thanks for filling the crystal cup. Thank you for being the true queen and king. Thank you for working me out. Thanks for love, to set free from fear and doubt. Thanks for getting under my skin. Thank you for stripping me down. Thanks for getting me lost to get found. Thanks for switching the channels within. Thank you for opening my heart. Thanks for the shaking and breaking apart and putting me back together again. Thanks for the bandages. Thanks for the sling and my dog-eared copy of the Tao Te Ching, and for letting me see that without you, I'm nothing. Minya Mai, Kali Ma, Kuan Yin, for everything. Thank you.
That was lovely. Thank you, John.
Beautiful. Truly beautiful. I'm going to make my offering now, because one of the things that I've found trying to work out how to make me be able to stand here is that I imagine the gates all the time. And the gates are our very special portal. And the gates are solid for us. We can stand, we can look through and see the other world. They're a connection for us. But for me, they're also symbolic of every other portal that there is, between the world of dry land and the world of water, between the world of the earth and the world above, and even between the world of the in-breath and the world of the out-breath. Everywhere's a portal that even we, standing with our feet on the ground and our head in the air, we also are a portal between the past and the future. Leonard Cohen has always been a great teacher for me. And so I'm not going to sing any Leonard Cohen songs, don't worry about that. But I would like to recite one of his poems that means such a lot to me. And it's called Come Healing. And you'll see why when I've been talking about the gates, when I recite the poem. So tonight, instead of being a goose rhapsode, if you would like to be a goose rhapsode, if you would like to learn one of John's poems and come on and speak it from your heart, you're welcome to do that. Tonight I'm going to be a Lenny rhapsode and speak one of his songs. Oh, gather up your brokenness and bring it to me now. The fragrance of the promises you never dared to vow. The splinters that you carry, the cross you left behind. Come, healing of the body. Come, healing of the mind. Behold, the gates of mercy in arbitrary space, and none of us deserving of cruelty or the grace. O solitude of longing where love has been confined, come, healing of the body, come, healing of the mind. O see the dark receding that tore the light apart, come, healing of the reason, come, healing of the heart. O troubled dust concealing an undivided love, the heart beneath is teaching to the broken heart above. So let the heavens falter, let the earth proclaim, come healing of the altar, come healing of the name. O longing of the branches to lift the little bud, longing of the arteries to purify the blood. Let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn, come, healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb. Leonard Cohen. Now, what's traditional at every single month is we have a very special place in our hearts and in front of the gates for Jules. Jules comes before us and he speaks on whatever he's going to speak about. I happen to know what he's going to speak about tonight. And settle yourself in for a very interesting talk when Jules comes forward for Jules' spot.
Thanks so much, Jen. And thanks so much, Jen and Nick, for that amazing work you've been doing there and that altar that you've put together with all that love and devotion. It's certainly helping alter my mind. I've got some words that were about the autumn equinox and about sun worship in these islands. At this vigil, we mark the autumn equinox. Before it, days are longer than the nights, while afterwards nights are longer than the days. The equinox is a liminal betwixt and between phase, during which light and darkness are in balance, in harmony, when the centre of the sun is directly above the Earth's equator, and when across the world the sun rises at 6 a.m. and sets at 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Autumn equinox is a public holiday in Japan, deemed to be the point at which the barriers between this world and the other world are thinnest, and therefore well suited for marking and meeting and paying respect to our departed loved ones. Our ancestors recognised their reliance on the sun for warmth, light and food, and depending on it for their survival. Because of this, ever since the start of human civilization, the sun has inspired people all over the world, irrespective of culture, to construct buildings and enact rituals, to thank and worship the sun. Hoping that these words give you a sense of connection with some places of sun worship during the current travel restrictions. Slieve na Carley, Irish for the mountain of the Calyx, is situated in Loch Crew, in the northeastern part of the island of Ireland. The Calyx is the divine witch of Irish mythology who controls the weather and the winds and determines the duration and severity of winter. Local legend says that a huge stone there is the Calyx chair, and that if you sit on it, you'll be granted a wish by her. This important place comprises an ancient cemetery complex of stone burial cairns, passage tombs, constructed about 5,000 years ago and spread over 4 connected hilltops at the highest point in County Meath. The number of surviving burial chambers that comprise this complex today totals 32. Each tomb has unique features and alignments, and many have artwork from the same period on the rocks near and inside the chambers. The so-called Cairn T contains many artworks carved on the stones inside, abstract geometrical shapes and patterns, including circles, dots, chevrons, zigzags, triangles, and sunlight motifs. This chamber has been built so that at the autumn and spring equinox, the first rays of the morning sun enter the passageway at dawn and illuminate the decorated backstone. 20 of the stones inside the so-called Cairn L have artwork carved onto them, including serpentine motifs, concentric circles, single and double U shapes and parallel lines. A solar eclipse is depicted on one of the rocks, which is thought to have taken place just over 5,000 years ago. If so, this makes it the oldest record of a solar eclipse in the whole world, even earlier than those recorded in ancient Egypt, Babylonia and China. The solar effect in Cairn T at the equinoxes is similar to that of the Passage Tomb at Newgrange, also in County Meath, which was built at a similar time and is aligned to flood its chamber with the rays of the winter solstice sunrise. The mound at Newgrange is ringed by curbstones, many of which are also engraved with the same geometrical patterns. Gold jewellery found in Ireland from 4,000 years ago includes items designed as breastplates which depict the solar boat that carries the sun through the sky. Chemical analysis shows that this gold is from Cornwall and Devon, but the jewellery was made in Ireland. Further indication of sun worship in Ireland in this early period. In 1947, the dowser Guy Underwood discovered the remains of a skeleton in a burial mound at Monkton Farley, a village 23 miles from Stonehenge. Alongside the person was a golden disc which they'd taken with them to their grave. This thin sheet of embossed gold features a cross within a circle. Analysis shows it to be 4,500 years old, the time that the central ring at Stonehenge was erected. The design is thought to depict the sun, and two small holes suggest the disc was worn. Looking southwest from the circle at Stonehenge towards the burial site at Bush Barrow is where the sun sets on the winter solstice. And if you turn around 180 degrees and look northeast, the avenue, the ceremonial route to the stones, is aligned with the summer solstice sunrise. Boscanoon is a stone circle close to the sea in southwest Cornwall. It's aligned with the rising winter solstice sun as it climbs above the Lamorna Gap that leads from the circle to the sea. A stone circle was built at Bryn Clethley Zoo on the Welsh island of Anglesey 5,000 years ago, with an outer circular bank and ditch with a diameter of 69 feet. Another 1,000 years later, the site was transformed into the passage cairn under a mound that stands there today. Inside the chamber is a stone carved with a serpentine pattern. The passageway is aligned with the summer solstice sunrise. Maze How is a 5,000-year-old stone burial cairn covered by a mound encircled by a ditch situated next to the Loch of Harray on mainland in the Orkneys in Scotland. The grassy mound, which covers the burial site, is huge, 115 feet in diameter and over 23 feet high. A 36-foot long and 3-foot high passageway leads to the central almost square burial chamber, which is constructed of flat and overlapping slabs of stone in a beehive-shaped vault. The craftsmanship of the chamber is breathtaking, and the quality of its engineering and design have been compared to the Great Pyramid of Giza. The stone circles of Stenness and the Ring of Brugge both stand very close by. The so-called Barnhouse stone in a field exactly 2,300 feet away is perfectly aligned with Maze How's passageway entrance and the back wall of its chamber, which for a few days each side of the winter solstice is illuminated by the light of the setting sun. As happened all over the world, some ancient sites in Britain and Ireland were clearly used for sun worship. The sun mattered to earlier people as it does to us. It's the only object in our solar system that shines, that defines what we mean by day and night, providing us with light, warmth, energy, and growth. Most archaeologists now agree that while the stone cairns in Britain and Ireland were certainly burial tombs, they must also have served as ritual centres for the community. Some maintain that megalithic art is purely decorative, while others believe that the geometric designs on those stones, including circles, spirals, arcs, serpentine curls, single and double U shapes, and parallel lines, refer to celestial objects or a female deity, or served as part of the ritual experience for those entering these tombs. And enlightened archaeologists have speculated that many of the designs many of the designs, elements of megalithic art are most likely derived from hallucinations, and that these hallucinations, however they were achieved, would have been interpreted within the prevailing worldview. The important spiral motif found in megalithic art may have represented a vortex that allowed travel between different realms of existence. In this view, the tombs were liminal places, and their geometrical stone artworks and the rituals associated with them allowed the living taking part in them to experience altered states of consciousness during which they could pass through the portal, cross the threshold between this world and the other world, the land of the dead, the place of their ancestors, whose earthly remains lay buried there. I'm sure you're thinking this all sounds rather like our gates here at Crossbones graveyard that separate us, the living, from the dead, until our rituals shine the light that opens the pathways and allows us to bathe in the shining emptiness and to enter the mystery.
Oh. Jules, I don't know if you can see this, but Jackie has said she could cry hearing Jules after all this time. You've made me cry. And Nick is saying, how incredible. Thank you so much, Jules.
Thank you.
This is so wonderful. After all this time, it feels so close. Thank you so much. Now, have we got anybody that's volunteering to... Okay. Nick's telling me we're quite close for time. So we're going to close the offerings with Nick speaking goose words off my back. Because the goose says...
I am the Mistress Southwark. I'm the daughter of eternity. And in me the broken man shall be made whole.
I think he means men and women.
I'm reading what it says on the shirt, guys.
In she, the broken is made whole. Oh, now we're coming to the end of our vigil, to the end of the 196, nearly 17 solid years. I would like to say before we go that for all the years that the fight went on to save the garden from the developers, Foster's accomplished. We have a 30-year lease. We have extra funding so we can beautify the garden even more. It will be open more. Well, when we can all mix, it will be open more. So that's something very great to celebrate. So on that note, we're going to close with two blessings. One is the unconditional blessing, and one is the goose blessing. Now, what we do, suddenly I swap roles from being speaker to being Jen. We traditionally, when we're at Crossbones, we seal ourselves and the other world in with a blessing of Jinn. Because back in those olden days when the people were being thrown away, Jinn was very often mother's comfort, mother's ruin, but it was very often the only comfort that they had. So because we practice radical acceptance and we don't criticize this, we are virtually sealing ourselves in because we're not outside. I'm not going to pour Jinn everywhere. I'm going to pour a little on the altar. Nick, on myself, and virtually on every single person here to seal us in with the goose and her gates. And the last blessings are also echo blessings. So I and Nicholas will say them, and then if you call them back, we say in the first blessing, we say everything twice. So after us, life, health, happiness, open pathways, health in the body, peace in the spirit, love in the heart. It is this that we wish for ourselves, for our friends and family, for all our brothers and sisters, for the goose and the crow, and for all humanity. Life, health, happiness, open pathways, health in the body, peace in the spirit, love in the heart. It is this that we wish for ourselves, for our friends and family, for all our brothers and sisters, for the goose and the crow, and for all humanity. May it be so. Goose, may you never be hungry.
Goose, may you never be hungry.
Goose, may you never be thirsty.
Goose, may you never be thirsty.
Goose, may your spirit fly free.
Goose, may your spirit fly free.
And so she does, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us. We'll see you next month when we'll be even smoother. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you very much for tuning in, and especially thanks to Jackie for wonderful tech support. We're hoping, we've modelled a way that rituals can be done whereby, everybody can join in, and we welcome other people to also have a go. We have this Zoom platform now. We're happy to help anybody that wishes to do ritual in the future like this, but it's just wonderful to see you all again. See all your faces and hear you actually speaking. So thanks so much to everyone who came forward with an offering, and anyone that got missed off this month. Well, there's always next month. So, thank you.
Marvellous. Let's see if